lose in Tampa. This is just not going to be their year. It sure appears that way. We'll get to that in a second. Thank goodness for the Olympics, my gosh. Alyssa Liu. What a story. This is the figure skating young lady from California who became a star, won the U.S. championships, the earliest anybody had ever done that, at the age of 13. By the end of her 16th year, she retired. She was burned out. She decided to go become a teenager, got into UCLA, lived the normal life, was on a family vacation. They went to a ski area, and she realized just how much she missed skating in her life. So she decided she would come back. And she came back on her own terms. She went back to the coaches that she had, and they were reluctant because they reminded her anybody who left the sport, especially at the level that she was at and tries to come back, never seems to make it. She said, I will, but here's the deal. I make all the choices. I want you to coach me and to guide me, but every major decision, from costume to music to basically what we're going to do, you tell me if I'm doing it right or wrong and what I need to do to fix it, but I'm making all the decisions. And realizing just how good she really was, and not thinking she would ever get this far, the pair of coaches that she retained said, okay, we'll go with that deal. Here's the amazing thing about Alyssa Liu, and I believe this is sincere. She made the statement, I don't really care about the medal. All I want is the venue to perform. I want to show off my art. And she was artistic and golden. Her performance won the free skate. It was a great day for Alyssa Liu. The team got a third, a fifth, and a 12th. It was a good figure skating period for this American team for sure. The U.S. women's hockey team was taking on Canada in the gold medal game. It's, by the way, that sport only knows those two in the gold medal. Since the since the Olympics added women's hockey as a sport, it's always been Canada and the USA in the gold medal game. This time it was the U.S. What a finish. With 2 minutes to go in regulation, the U.S. pulls their goalie. With 2 minutes to go, they tie the game, and then they win it in overtime. Man, I'm not sure exactly when another sport, like the Russian teams in regular hockey, where they don't have the Soviet Union anymore, so they're split up, but there's no dominance there. It's all USA and Canada.
Yeah, actually, there's only been 1 year in which the USA women's team didn't make it, and that was 2006 when Sweden made it in and Canada defeated them there. But every other Olympic gold medal match has been USA versus Canada.
What is it? That was the seventh meeting, I think? Sixth or seventh, and the U.S. has won 3, and I think Canada's won 4. So
yeah,
that was pretty amazing. This team was pretty amazing, honestly, because do you know how many goals they gave up in the whole tournament?
It was 1.
And 1 yesterday, so a total of 2.
Only 2 goals. That's insane.
That is absolutely insane. All right, 2 other quick notes. Tom Hart's going to join us. We're going to talk a little SEC and college basketball with him. That'll come your way literally at 10:10. Andy Schiffman on the NBA near the bottom of the hour. And then our final segment of the week is always with Jonah Dillon, and we could talk a number of things about him. I'm so interested in this Cortez Braham eligibility case, where if you play a guy that won through the courts, you stand to get punished. We'll see exactly what Jonah Dillon thinks about all of that, so we've got a busy show. The Chicago Bears to Hammond, Indiana? Blasphemy! Are you kidding me? That can't really be happening. I sit here and I wonder about the audacity, the chutzpah, the cojones of the Bears and their general manager, because they're messing with state governments. First, they got the Illinois government to try to help them with infrastructure. I'll give the Bears credit. I think they were willing to fork over most of the $2 billion they were going to build a stadium on in Arlington, where the racetrack used to be. They purchased that land. They didn't get a government handout for that. And they were going to build there. And when the state and Arlington wouldn't build $850 million worth of infrastructure, they balked. They were going to go back downtown to Chicago, and the city government there with the state of Illinois was going to then put up some money for another stadium there. Keep in mind, they just redid Soldier Field, 10 years ago? Not that long ago. Now, that didn't work out well, so what are they doing? They're going to go to Hammond, Indiana. They're not even going to be in the state of Illinois. I can't believe that's for real. I think it's positioning, but it's amazing to me that you would have the chutzpah to use a state government of Indiana to try to get what you want in the state of Illinois. I don't see how this bodes well at all. And if they did go to Indiana, could they be allowed to use the name Chicago? Would they become the Hammond Bears? The Indiana Bears? What? Nuts. All right, one last thing before we get to Tom Hart. I guess it was last night at a Rhodes College basketball game that Harold Grader, who is one of the reps from this area, maybe the only rep of this from this area, that is on the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame board. He made the announcement at the Rhodes game that longtime good guy, football coach, and longtime AD at Rhodes College has been elected into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. There's not a nicer guy and not a more skilled guy at both coaching and being an administrator than Mike Clary. But really, the goodness of that. Oh, he was also a golf coach, the women's golf coach, because he loves golf. I don't know. They all got their own teachers. But what a good guy. I'm so happy for Mike Clary, and I know he's retired now, and I'm not sure if he's been totally healthy. I know that his family has had some health issues. This is icing on the cake. Very happy for Mike Clary, who will be going into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Sitting at the Family Leisure Studio, it's about to move. I don't know if it's in Atlanta because Tom Hart's always somewhere. But the Family Leisure floor model sale, it's going to continue. I know through the end of this month. It's been a while. It's been going on because they're moving stuff out. They got to move the new hot tubs, the new spas, even those cold plunges. They got to move the floor models out to bring the new stuff for spring in. You get the benefit of that because there are steep, that's the wording they use, steep discounts on all of those items. If there's a floor model, you're going to save a lot of money. The discounts are so deep, I can't even tell you what they are. I'm sworn to secrecy, but I can tell you, you need to go check it out. That's I-40 and Whidden Road. That is Family Leisure. Somewhere in America is Tom Hart. Good morning. Where are you? What game you got this weekend?
Good morning. I'm sitting in my living room in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll be driving down to the loveliest village on the plains later this afternoon for Auburn and Kentucky tomorrow night as the college basketball season rolls on.
And I do want to get into that in a second because Kentucky slipped a little bit. They've lost a couple of games. It looks like Florida, which was the preseason favorite, is starting to distance itself from the rest of the comp. And I want to begin with this. The NCAA president, Charles Baker, has been sort of on a mission. He wants to expand the NCAA tournament. I think the 72 or 76 teams from the 68. I love the NCAA tournament. It might be my overall number one favorite thing. And I got a lot of favorite things, but I really love the NCAA tournament. When the Tigers are in it, I'm always overjoyed. Getting to the final game in 2008 was one of the joys of my life. It really was. I still remember up 9 with 2:12 to go. That may be on my gravestone.
I was in the building that weekend, too.
But I got to tell you, I'm not sure. I want it bigger. I understand he wants more teams, and if it's for mid-majors, maybe I give them the nod on that. I don't know if that's the direction. Usually when there is going to be an expansion, it's for the bigger names, the Power 4 schools that get the benefit of the doubt here. If it were the other way, maybe I'd be for 72. But honestly, at this point, do we need to make something that is so fantastic? Do we need to try to make it better?
No. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. That's
go.
what I think of when I think of this wanted expansion. And I agree with you 100%. If it's to get more Cinderellas in and more mid-majors, great. Indiana State, Robbie Avila a couple of years ago had an amazing season, fell apart late. It didn't work out. I think one of the biggest, and they ended up in the NIT. Like, that would have been a fun team to see in the tournament. But to expand it for sub 500 power conference teams to get in is not the answer. And it doesn't bring more eyeballs. What makes this tournament great is not only the diehards that love it and folks like you and I who've had the opportunity to attend a Final Four, you working, me just hanging out. It's the appeal to the general fan. It's the crazy aunt who knows nothing who wins the bracket every other year because she does it by colors. Like, and I hate to put gambling at the forefront. This would be the softcore porn of gambling, filling out a bracket. But the fact of the matter is that through offices throughout our entire country, through school hallways and whatever, this is the appeal of having a bracket, a paper bracket in your hand or one on your cell phone that you can scroll through, and everybody can get excited on Thursday morning when the games start. Not on Tuesday.
All right.
Not trying to shuffle teams out of their conference tournaments and rush them into Dayton or wherever it may be Tuesday, only for them to lose and not have the excitement of the buildup of the tournament and really not be a participant at all. So just stop. Leave it as it is. Nobody liked New Coke. And you know why nobody liked New Coke? Is because at the very beginning, it became at the expense of Old Coke. Just leave it the way it is. Stop.
I actually think you're in Atlanta. That's the home of Coke. I think classic Coke, the old Coke, I think it took a big jump up, though, when they went back to it. I really do.
Yeah.
So that ended up being marketing genius. You mentioned Indiana State and the big guy Avila. I do think St. Louis is a great story. And so back to our premise. If St. Louis doesn't win the A-10, I think they would get in as an automatic qualifier. I really haven't looked that hard at their non-conference, but my gosh, that's a pretty good basketball team. What, they've lost one game?
They lost this weekend at Rhode Island. I believe.
So that'll be
they
two.
Lost two. They lost in the buzzer non-conference. I think it was Stanford, and then they dropped the second one. I think maybe where you're going with this is Miami of Ohio is a different story now.
Yeah,
right?
they
still haven't lost. They were on ESPN Friday night. They won again. If they lose a regular season conference game and then don't win their tournament because they played nobody, they're in danger of not making the tournament. That's a very real deal and very similar to what happened with Indiana State. Like if you and I wouldn't hold their coaches' feet to the fire on this. Like you build your schedule to try to win games. But the fact of the matter is their non-conference schedule is so weak that they would be in danger of being left out even with a gaudy record.
Well, here's the tough part. I mean, you're absolutely right. But what Power 4 team is going to play them? That's the problem. Memphis, because of TV and such, they have the opportunity to play teams. They can get home and homes, and they have with Vandy, with Mississippi State, with Mississippi. Tennessee won't play them, but that's a whole other story. But they get pretty good matchups. They got Louisville to a 6-year deal. They got Vandy this year. No one is going to play that team. No one is playing a MAC team from the Power 4 or give them a home and home. No way. The only way they play them is in a multi-event tournament.
Yeah. They have a couple of non-division. They actually have three. Well, they got three non-Division I games in their non-conference: Trinity Christian, Indiana East, and Milligan. Now that's fine, but you're just asking for you're asking for your computer numbers. Now, I don't think Travis Steele, their head coach, I don't think he thought, hey, we're going to be 26-0.
No.
And so we should build up our non-conference. Like, that's not really how it works, right? Especially for a team like that. But they've won a lot of close games, and I'm all for the storyline of it. I'm all for the excitement of it. We've had St. Joe's going to the tournament undefeated. We had Gonzaga going to the tournament undefeated. Kentucky 38-0.
Yeah.
I think those stories, no matter if you're the Blue Bloods or the No Bloods, I think they're great for the sport of college basketball to get people excited and get them talking.
That Kentucky team, that was the closest to running the table since '76 Indiana. I thought they were going to do it. Cal just didn't quite get that done. Let's go back to the SEC for a minute. Florida, as I said, is distancing himself. Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, they're all 9-4. About a game and a half, I think it is, behind the Gators. Do all four of those deserve to be in the NCAA tournament? I see most of the time the bracketologists are saying 3, which is so weird after all the schools that got in last year. How many do you think, when the dust is settled, the SEC gets into the NCAA tournament?
I think 10 is the low bar. I think 11 is possible, really dependent on Auburn. Auburn has the number one strength of schedule. Bruce Pearl did not do his son any favors with what he left him with. Houston, Michigan,
he got him the job,
Arizona,
Tom.
Purdue. That's true. He got him the job in a 5-year deal. I'd say, you know what? Hey, listen, I get you the job. I get you a 5-year contract. You're going to take it in the shorts year 1. Right? Because this is the schedule you got. Anybody would take that deal. So I back off of that previous statement. However, the schedule, as tough as it was, it's what's keeping them in the conversation right now because they've lost 5 in a row. Ken Pom says they should finish strong and win 4 out of their last 5, starting with Kentucky at home. If they can do that, they'll be in great shape. And because of the computers, Auburn would be in. And to me, Auburn would be the 11th team. So many teams from the league got in last year, Wolo. We set a record with 14 of them. And I don't have the number in front of me, but so many of them got in with a sub-500 conference record because of the strength of the league's non-conference. You just don't have that same type of wiggle room this year, although I think anything's possible because you can't look at it in a vacuum. The Big East, for example, is having a horrendous year, right, especially relative to their strength and the national championships that they have under their belt. So there are more spots available based on that. And then it's a little early to start talking this, but keep in mind, the bid thieves. Like, for example, if Miami makes it to the MAC championship game undefeated and they lose that, which is entirely possible, then the MAC's going to get 2 in. Right. That's a thief just waiting to happen.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. All right. I know you're doing the prep for Kentucky and Auburn. What's happened to the Wildcats? They've lost 2 in a row. They sort of slipped out of the conversation of winning that league.
It's like Dickens. It's a tale of 2 teams. I mean, they've had such a wild roller coaster season in the Commonwealth. Their non-conference was not good. They started 0-2 in league play. Then they put together this mini run, generally against the dregs of the league. They had a buzzer beater against LSU, helped them survive down in Baton Rouge, and everybody started feeling good about that program again. And then I was there Tuesday night against Georgia, and the one of the worst, if not the worst, 3-point shooting team in the SEC, and Georgia banged down like 14 threes against them. Kentucky's injuries are really starting to expose them. Jalen Lowe, the point guard, came in from Pitt, is injured and out for the year. They had as many turnovers as they did assists on Tuesday night. They have a hard time executing down the stretch. Mark Pope is trying to balance his lineup and get minutes off for his stars in an era where midweek we saw these stars go off. Josh Hubbard for Mississippi State played every minute and scored 45, I think it was, and Darius Acuff for Arkansas scored 49.
He's unbelievable.
50 minutes. Unbelievable.
He's got to be the MVP and freshman of the year. He could be both.
He could be both. And John Calipari's, this, his ability to put trust in a lead guard, point guard, whatever you want to call him, and even a guy without experience, and build that belief into that player, and then give him the keys to the car. that is a special skill from a coaching standpoint to put your trust in a guy and then just let him cook. I mean, I can't wait to see these freshmen in the tournament.
Me too.
Right? We have,
me too.
I think the top 8 picks will be freshmen. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Acuff could be 8. Could you believe that?
That's a pretty good pick for number 8. At least a few of these freshmen are going to absolutely cook in the postseason and could go on a Carmelo Anthony type run and just carry their team, if not to the Final Four, to a national championship. And I can't wait to see it.
That'll be fun to watch. Last thing, what the heck has happened to very proud LSU? You know, I mean, that was a great program. All of a sudden, it's an afterthought. The women, of course, they've got this very charismatic coach who does great things. They outdraw the men now.
Yeah. I think what you're seeing with LSU is a warning sign to a lot of different basketball coaches out there. LSU has also always been a very competitive campus, right? It's not uncommon, and I'm sure it'll happen soon if it hasn't happened already. The LSU baseball team on a coming Saturday will outdraw the men's basketball team. That's going to happen. That's the way it works. They won another national championship. The women, obviously, big draw. In this day and age of NIL dollars, where you scrap for every morsel of your dinner plate, like you're at an orphanage here. If you don't have great support from your donors, not just the fan base, but your donors, they turn the tap water off, and you don't get anything. And Matt McMahon's an incredible man, a great human being, and a good coach, but he just doesn't have the money to compete in the SEC. And his guys still play hard for him. I mean, like I said, they almost knocked off Kentucky. They've had a bunch of close losses, but they just don't have the same talent level. And if you want to make a coaching change these days, it's easy. You just stop writing checks, and that guy will drown right in front of your eyes, and then you'll bring in the next and try it over.
That is college athletics as we sit in 2026, no doubt about it. Tom Hart, always a pleasure. We'll be watching Kentucky and Auburn. And I guess you're not doing any more American games this year, are you? You're done with this league.
Dane Bradshaw and I, Memphis native, had a blast doing it last year, but we don't, outside of that Memphis Vandy game we had earlier this year, we don't have anything on the schedule.
All right. We'll miss you, but we'll watch you on TV,
Miss you too,
and we'll talk to you in your usual time slot next Thursday. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds great. All right, well, be
That's
good.
our guy on the SEC and a whole lot more. That is Tom Hart from ESPN. We take a break. When we return, we're going to head to Chicago. Our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman, on tanking, anti-tanking measures, and a whole lot more. The NBA with Schiffman. That comes your way in just a minute.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Listen up, Rebel fans. Your next winning drive starts at Landers Ford in Collierville. Their game plan is simple. Find you the most savings possible. Make a trade, lower your payments, or let them buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from them. That's how you keep moving the chains. Just like the Grove on game day. Fans all across the Mid-South keep coming back to the #1 Ford dealership in Greater Memphis. See them today in Collierville or online at LandersFordMemphis.com. When you own a Landers Ford, you get the support of a certified service tech with the Landers Ford Remote Service Experience Program. They pick it up, drop it off, or fix it on the spot, so you're never left watching from the sidelines. To finish the drive, the iconic Landers Easy Pass always brings more for your trade and the biggest discounts to put you in victory formation. And now, straight from the 1977 Ole Miss football team that took down #1 ranked Notre Dame, the final snap of the day from Landers Ford President Don Kitchens.
If it doesn't say Landers, you paid too much.
As reported on Ford's 2024 Total New Vehicle Retail Sales Report in Memphis Market.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Incorporated, Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Progressive knows that boat days can come with unexpected problems. Dang, I forgot the wakeboard. How am I supposed to enjoy myself without my favorite water activity? I mean, sure, we could still go tubing, fishing, or even just relax on a floaty, but without the wakeboard, what's the point?
If a real problem comes along, your boat's protected 24/7 with Progressive, so you can keep worrying about boater problems. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in D.C.
Rebel Nation, get the latest on everything Ole Miss sports with the Cannon Motors of Mississippi Rebel Yell Hotline. Join Rebel insiders Chuck Rounsville, Yancey Porter, and Gary Darby Monday nights at 6 as they break down the latest with the Rebels, along with even more insight from special guests. Rebel Yell Hotline, Mondays at 6 p.m. on WHBQ.
Stay up to date with everything going on in Ole Miss athletics with Rebel Yell Hotline every Monday night from 6 to 7 on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome back in. The Slovakia-U.S. men's semifinal takes place later this afternoon. Of course, they will play, if the U.S. beats Slovakia, the winner of Finland and Canada. At the moment, end of the first period. Have we got a little upset brewing here? Canada's behind Finland 1-0. One other story of interest. It appears, did Kurt Signetti, after he signed anything, did he sign that long-term contract? He got all that money, remember? Indiana football. Did he do anything after he signed? Oh, he won a national title? Is that what happened? I guess so. I guess that's pretty good because the school has just signed a new contract with him. It's going to pay him $13.2 million per year through 2033. 7 years, $13.2 million. You do the math. I'm sure that our agent from Chicago has already done that math. He's not your client, is he, Andy Schiffman?
Look, I wish he was, being a Hoosier, I can tell you that much. Unbelievable. Well-deserved, I'll tell you that, too.
$13.2 million?
Locked up. It's crazy. Hey, you deliver a national championship to Indiana University, I think you deserve even more than that.
Well, maybe so, because that program has never sniffed anything like that. That's amazing, though. That kind of money, I mean, that's a lot of money to coach football. What was he making when he came from James Madison to Indiana? He was making like $600,000 a year, right?
Something like that. Yeah, a little more than $600,000. I think it was something like close to $677 in like 2023. So pretty incredible.
It's an amazing story. All right, before we get into the NBA, what's going on with the Bears and Indiana? This can't be real. This is Bears management actually messing with state governments? They've already messed with Illinois. Now they're kind of using Indiana to get leverage, or do you think this is real?
I kind of think it's more the leverage play. There's obviously been talks for many years previously that they would move the team up to Arlington Heights, which is basically a suburb of Chicago.
And they bought the land of the racetrack that used to be there, Arlington.
Exactly. So now, obviously, to your point, Dave, there's talk of them moving to Indiana with the Hammond, which is probably 45 minutes away. I don't know. I mean, I think that the recent success of the Bears, and hopefully that's going to continue, will solidify them being in Chicago. I think they do draw a great crowd every single week. So, I don't know. I tend to look at it as more of a leverage play. I don't see them. I'd see them moving to Arlington Heights before they do Hammond.
I do too. I don't know what they're messing around with. That makes a lot more. And by the way, if you moved, like if you look where Arlington is, and then you look at Hammond, Indiana, with traffic, that takes you 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's nuts. All right, let's get to the NBA and Adam Silver being very frank about a couple of things. One, we'll get to this maybe later at the end, relocation, so people exhale here that the Grizzlies, at least for the near future, don't have to worry about the team leaving. But he also talked about this being maybe the worst period he's seen with tanking. And there's a lot of teams tanking and measures to stop tanking. Some financial penalties, they've already what was it? The Pacers, they fined $500,000.
The Jazz, yeah.
The Jazz got $100,000. There's several different concepts that they will try to use to stop tanking. Amongst them, first-round draft picks can be protected only for the top 4 or the top 14-plus selections. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date, no longer allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in consecutive years. Teams can't pick in the top 4 the year after they make the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated may be based on a 2-year deal. What do you think is really going to happen here? Will anything really work?
Well, I actually really like these proposals by Adam Silver, especially the idea of lottery odds freezing at the trade deadline, because you see it time and time again. By that point in time, Dave, if you're a team and you're a coach and a GM, you know in early February if you're really going to contend for the playoffs or not, especially after some of the moves you make. That's pretty telling for the rest of this season and what position you want to take. And if they do mandate lottery odds at the deadline, I do actually think that will curb tanking for the rest of the season, which, again, curb tanking meaning star players will play more, which indirectly obviously benefits the NBA fan base, right? That's what it's all about, is fans don't want to spend money on tickets to go see teams without their star players because they're quote-unquote resting or quote-unquote have a phantom injury because they're just trying to lose games and get a top draft pick. So I do really like that idea. I do like the idea of prohibiting teams from continuously being in the lottery year in and year out. I think there has to be some tweaking because, look, some of these teams are just going to be that bad. So I think there has to be a little more variability in that regard. But I do like some of these ideas. I think they will continue to think of ways to tighten up the restrictions on tanking and the penalties on tanking, let's say. So I'm in favor of it, and I think we'll see something put in place here, maybe not in the foreseeable future, but eventually. I'm a fan.
Do you think they would ever consider having a strict cap and not having a draft? In other words, if you're the Knicks, maybe you got the first shot at a guy, but maybe Milwaukee will spend more money of their cap to get that guy and figure it out in the long run and build from there. Just to do away with the cap with the draft might do away with tanking.
Yeah, and not even with that, but just the whole pre-draft process. We as agents, we talk about it quite a bit, how much it's so chaotic. For 2 months, you have these kids just finished up a full college season for the most part, flying all around the country, visiting anywhere. Unless you're like a top 5, top 6 pick, Dave, you're visiting anywhere from a dozen to 18 different teams. And injuries happen. It really wears everybody out, including the teams. And a lot of these teams are trying to do this simultaneously while they're in the playoffs and trying to win games. And so it is pretty hectic and chaotic. So even to that point, internally here at Priority Sports, we have discussed the benefits of just doing away with the draft altogether, to your point. Do I actually think the league will do that? No, I don't.
I think it would solve a lot of problems. And I know people are going to say, well, that's going to give the Knicks and the Lakers and all the major market teams a step up, or the more traditional teams like Boston. But I think in the long run, if you had a cap that you had to abide by.
Yeah, you got a cap, and you carve out a certain limit for draft picks. I think there's a way to do it. I just don't see that happening anytime soon.
It would stop the tanking. I can tell you that. It would stop the tanking cold. Speaking of the penalties that we're talking about, we already saw it with a couple of teams. That makes it very interesting to me to see what will happen with Ja Morant. Because sooner or later, he's got to come back from his elbow injury. It wasn't that bad, let's be honest. And they're saying, you got to play players. You got to play Ja. And the Grizz are going, well, we don't really want to play Ja. We don't want him getting hurt. We don't want him hurting his trade value. Exactly. Yep. What a dilemma this is going to be. What do you think will be the outcome of that? When Ja's healthy, he probably already is. When he is, what is Zach Kleiman going to do?
Well, I think to your point, right, you can't just rest the guy to tank. It's pretty obvious and he'll be fined. And I think they will play him. I think they'll play him sporadically. I don't necessarily think he'll be out there for as consistently regular minutes as you might be used to seeing early in the season. So I think there's going to be some sort of go-between versus, some middle of the spectrum where he is going to play. Maybe they can find a way to get away with not doing it every night and call it residual effects from the injury to avoid maybe having him go back-to-back. I don't know how many back-to-backs the Grizzlies even have the rest of this season. But I just think, I don't necessarily see him playing a ton of minutes, but I think he will play. So, look, I'm not the coach. I'm not Zach. It's not for me to say. It will be very interesting, though. But, look, even if they do play him, given the nature of the Grizzlies roster right now, I don't sit there. Look, they're in 11th right now. I don't all of a sudden say, well, if you inject Ja back in this rotation with the Grizzlies, they're sitting at 20 and 33. All of a sudden they're going to go on this tear and end up as a top 8, top 9 team. So I'm not super worried if I'm Zach about the idea of, okay, well, now Ja's going to be thrown in the mix and we're all of a sudden going to start winning. I think we've seen that, right? So for me, look, it's TBD what happens the rest of this way. I think we will see Ja, to your point, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be heavy minutes the rest of the season.
I tend to agree with you. They've got to play him. And I don't know if they play him and instead of playing him 30 minutes, they play him 20 minutes and they take him out at the end of the game when it's all on the line.
Yeah, don't play the fourth quarter.
Just like they were doing with Ty Jerome there a couple of games ago. He's on a 20 minutes. One game they wanted to win, the last game with Triple J, and so they waited for the last 4 minutes to put him in when he was at 16. And then the next game when they didn't want to win, guess who was out of minutes in the last 6 minutes?
Yeah.
That would be Ty Jerome. So there are ways to do that. We'll see how it goes. The All-Star game concept. 3 of the 4 games were really good. It looked like they really played hard and they wanted to defend and they wanted to win. Have we found something here? Is this a good thing?
I think so, but does it get me excited as an NBA fan anymore? No. I mean, I do think they were competitive games, to your point. It was the highlight of the weekend, which otherwise was pretty abysmal, in my opinion. I mean, obviously being an NBA agent, being in this industry, and very familiar with the dunk contestants, I think the average NBA fan was not. They don't know who Carter Bryant is, or Keyshawn Johnson, or Jackson Hayes. These guys are. I think that the three-point contest is pretty exciting. Unfortunate that neither of our guys won, but they put on a good show. Bobby Portis and Tom Knipple. But I think overall, I could see this format for the All-Star game definitely continuing, and then eventually they'll probably find some way to tweak it again. It's just unfortunate. I think among the pro sports, the popularity and the attraction for the NBA compared to All-Star weekend, it just continues to widen, meaning the league popularity as a whole, globally especially, is only increasing, and I feel like year in and year out, the ratings and the interest in the All-Star weekend just continues to decline. And I don't really have an answer for that. And I know the league is trying to tweak things, modify formats like they did. At the end of the day, you want to see the best of the best going out there and competing. And I think we did see a lot of that for the most part this year. So I think in the short term, we will see this whole, three games, 3 teams, stars, stripes, and world be competitive in the near future until they tweak it again.
I were you there in LA for the weekend?
Luckily, I was not.
Okay,
happy to be in Chicago. We had a lot of our staff out there, though.
I was told that the 3-point and the risers 3-point and the
Rising Stars and all that,
and the dunk, there was nobody in the ballpark. That no one came.
Well, when you're watching in that stadium, it's a brand new stadium, but people on our staff too, I was talking about it when they got back, Dave, and you saw it on TV. They had all the lights off over the fans, and they had these lights, lighting up the seats to try and mimic a crowded stadium. And that's just, to your point, that was not the case, and it's pretty sad. Brand new stadium, popular city like LA. You think it'd be this big ticket attraction, NBA All-Star Weekend for the first time with that new stadium. And you wouldn't even sell that out. Meanwhile, if you go to a regular, Clippers-Lakers game or maybe even a Clippers-Spurs to see Wemby, those games will sell out.
Oh, yeah. Well, what about the All-Star game itself? That thing looked like it was pretty full.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was for the most part. Even still, right, the NBA wants this competitive nature in the All-Star game. You're just not going to get these guys playing 100%. They're They're protecting themselves against injury. I think they still are just like, okay, beyond bragging rights, what are we really playing for? A little bit of bonus money here and there. That's why we've talked about it, right? I still like the idea. What Major League Baseball does is, home field advantage in the World Series to the winning side. Obviously, with this new format in the NBA, you can't really institute that if you're going to have it split up like that.
Right.
But I do think if somehow if they ever do go back to just East versus West, I think that's still another concept because that is hugely important. And a lot of these stars are with playoff contending teams where that really matters.
The numbers, by the way, TV-wise, out the roof. And 93% is what they were up. Now, some of that is the fact that it's on over-the-air network, TNT and NBC, as much as we like TNT and those guys, and that show is now over on ESPN, that pregame show. But the numbers on a cable compared to the numbers on an over-the-air network were much bigger. And the fact that you were sandwiched around the Olympics, this was a big plus for the NBA and their sponsors. But I don't know if they're going to get that Olympic thing, but once every couple of years. 4 years, 4 years, because it's got to be the Winter Olympics, yeah.
Exactly. And then from last year to this year, Dave, total viewership for the All-Star Game doubled. I think it almost doubled. It was like a little over 4 million to this year. I think it was 4.7 million last year to almost 9 million.
I think it was 9.9 million at its peak.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit counterintuitive to think about that, given when you're watching the game, just the lack of interest for the whole weekend overall. But look, I think it's great for the NBA, and I think the number one catalyst for all this is the international driver for these superstars that teams want to tune in and see. And obviously some of these guys were injured, this and that, but like Shea, being Canadian, obviously Jokic, Luka, Wemby, like you have now in today's NBA, fans from literally all over the world wanting to tune in to see these guys play. And you think about where the NBA was, even 15, 20 years ago. Obviously, we're familiar with Pau Gasol and his impact. A lot of people in Spain being associated with the Grizzlies and wanting to watch the NBA to see him. But, I mean, you could count on probably one hand the number of international stars back in those days. Tony Parker, Pau, Dirk. And now every team, I feel like, has 3, 4, or 5 guys in the rotation that are from outside the U.S., which just leads to this overall viewership.
He's our guy, Andy Schiffman, Priority Sports in Chicago. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again next Friday.
Good to talk to you, Dave.
That's our guy. That's Andy Schiffman. He's brought to you by Sheldon. You ever wonder where your doctor goes when he or she gets sick, or maybe what your dentist does if they've got a toothache? Well, Sheldon Rosengarten, of course, with Mark Spensdorf. Over the years, he's been honored, I guess you could say, when former agents contact him when they or their former clients, because they've retired, need to sell their home and they want to buy one. He's got that reputation. It's all in the real estate business. They know what he is all about, and they know about that successful strategic marketing program. They can mean the difference, what you make and when you make it, how long it takes you to get to the closing table. He's by your side 24/7. All those guys that have been in the business, they know and they recognize how good he is. And that's why people always say when you want the job done, who do you call? You call Sheldon. Do what the other professionals, when they step down, have done. They call or they email Sheldon Rosengarten. It's that simple. You go MemphisRelocate.com with an email, or you can talk to him in person. He's around 24/7 at 483-0546. We take a break. We're heading downtown. Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal on Tiger football, Grizz basketball, and a whole lot more. He comes your way in just a minute.
Did you miss your favorite Sports 56 show? No! Check out the podcast, broken down hourly at sports56whbq.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe. Never miss any Sports 56 show again with our podcasts available daily from Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, folks. Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers. And a couple of weeks ago, a gentleman came in and bought his wife a beautiful diamond bracelet for Valentine's Day. As I wrapped it up, he asked me, Bill, how long have we been doing this? Well, he and I both thought backward to when he bought his engagement ring for me in 1971, and we did the math. And the answer to the question was 55 years ago. Then we talked about some 24 years later when his son got married and Russell Brothers Jewelers had just the right ring for his bride. Then, this past Christmas, I had the pleasure of meeting his grandson, and we found the perfect gift for his girlfriend. At Russell Brothers, we take great pride in the multi-generational families that we serve, and we are humbled by their loyalty. So how do we do it? Easy answer, folks, and one I'm proud of. Beauty, quality, value, and service. And we would love the opportunity to share them with you at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers. Come see us at 4646 Poplar at Perkins.
Hey, Marty McNate, I hear you're searching for drivers wanted at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown.
We are, Randy. We've got something for every driver on the road.
Well, I can't wait to hear about it. Hit me.
How about sporty 2026 Jetta S, $277 a month?
That's a great deal. What else you got, McNate?
2026 Teos S, $327 a month.
Teos, $327 a month, and give me one more.
The Tiguan S, $355 a month.
Only $355 a month for Tiguan S.
We've got a ride for everyone at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown.
So if you want a great deal on Volkswagen, you know we Gossett.
So come see me, Marty McNate, at Gossett Volkswagen Germantown, 7420 Winchester Road, or shop online at GossettVWG.com. And remember, your future's what you make it.
All 36 month lease, Jetta SM 104 280, MSRP 26426, Taos SM 06162, MSRP 27011, Jetta TM 05137, MSRP 2580, Taos STM 1018191, MSRP 29101, Tiguan TMO 14510, MSRP 32585, includes all rebates and incentives, PF 895, excludes tax title license with approved credit. See for complete details. Offer ends June 28, 26
Meet Morgan Jones. Morgan is about to step into a world unknown to most, thanks to Progressive's Renters Insurance, a place of fresh linens and turn-down service. You see, Morgan temporarily vacated her apartment and has gone to a hotel because a pipe burst in her apartment. A pipe that made her sense of reality and apartment ceiling all come crashing down. Luckily, Morgan checked into Progressive's Protection Zone. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers.
Mercedes-Benz Van Center Memphis has serious vans for serious work. At 4430 American Way, they are the Mid-South source for cargo, passenger, crew vans, and custom chassis. Need one or a full fleet? New or used? They've got it. With fleet solutions and custom upfits. Certified techs keep you moving with fast maintenance, repairs, and a large parts inventory. Mercedes-Benz Van Center is your Sprinter Van headquarters. 901-237-9302 or sprintervans.com. Mercedes-Benz Van Center Memphis, part of the Tag Truck Center family. Driven to keep you on the road.
Memphis, if you've been in a car accident, money is on the line. Medical bills, lost pay, your future. NST fights for this city and has for over 35 years, winning big for Memphis families. The call is free, no fee unless we win. NST is the way to go. Call 683-7000.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
The upset watch continues in Milan. Finland has scored again. Halfway through period number 2, they're upsetting Canada 2-0. We'll keep you apprised. In the meantime, we head downtown. Our friend from the Commercial Appeal, Jonah Dillon, joins us. Now, you wrote an interesting story, and this to me has ramifications far beyond just the University of Memphis. The NCAA has filed, and there's, I guess, a court hearing on March the 13th, against Cortez Bram and the University of Memphis for playing a player who got eligibility through the court system. They don't recognize it. They think that Memphis should be penalized for playing Cortez Bram. Actually, Bram got eligibility before the U of M signed him, so it could have been any school that they would be picking on for this. What's going to happen with Trinity Chambliss at Ole Miss? He's just done the same thing. Would they do that next year if they won like a national championship? Would that be then vacated? What do you think is going to end up playing out with all of this? Good morning, Jonah.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre situation, especially because obviously we're kind of in the middle of it right now. Essentially, like you mentioned there, Cortez Bram had a lawsuit that he filed last summer to get eligible for this season. He got a preliminary injunction. A judge awarded him that made him eligible, and then after that happened, he decided to commit to Memphis because at that point he was just in the transfer portal, basically. Well, he actually technically wasn't in the transfer portal, but so he gets eligible to play for the season. Obviously, Memphis fans know he was Memphis' top receiver in 2025 and played a really big role despite the fact that he only joined the team about 2 weeks before the season actually started. So he was kind of ramping up those first couple weeks. And the lawsuit obviously is continuing because it was an injunction, but they hadn't litigated the actual issue. So you would think when the season ends, okay, the lawsuit was about whether or not he was eligible to play in 2025. The 2025 season is over. So his lawyers filed a motion which basically said that. It said this lawsuit should be thrown out because there's nothing to litigate anymore because he's already played the season. The season is over. His career is over. And the NCAA had obviously appealed that. That's why the lawsuit was still going on. The NCAA responded to that motion by Cortez Braham's lawyers, and they said, we think that this lawsuit should continue. You shouldn't throw out this appeal. And one of the reasons is because we want to use this thing called the rule of restitution to penalize Memphis for playing Cortez Braham if we win the lawsuit and it's proven that he should have been ineligible. And they're doing the same thing in a lawsuit involving somebody who played for San Diego State, Tatua Martinson, in 2025. And so it's not just Memphis they're going after, it's San Diego State as well, potentially. Obviously, there's a lot of steps that we would need to get to before anything happens to Memphis. It's not like any of this is going to happen soon. But it's really the ramifications, like you said, it's a signal that the NCAA is going to try to do this, which means they're trying to essentially incentivize schools or tell schools, hey, if you play players who are eligible because of preliminary injunctions or court cases, we're going to continue to litigate the cases. We're going to try to. And if we win in the end, even if the season is already over, we're going to penalize you on the back end. And so Trinidad Chambliss obviously would be an example of a situation where they would try to potentially do that.
I'm always curious. You can vacate stuff. I never think that Memphis didn't win 38 games in 2008. I'm sorry. And you can vacate Cortez Braham's catches. I don't care. But I do care if you penalize me financially. What do you think happens in that regard? What kind of money do you think they're going to go after the University of Memphis for playing a kid? And it would have been any school that would have played him because basically he used the court to get eligibility.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically what they're trying to say is, hey, if there's a player who is eligible because of a court case, don't take him or don't play him, right? So it's hard to imagine that Ole Miss even, people at Ole Miss are seeing this play out right now, right? It's hard to imagine that they're going to look at this and say, oh man, Trinidad Chambliss, sorry, we don't want you to play here anymore because of this, right? Because even on the back end, if they take away your wins or whatever, to have a player like that and have him be able to play and to take him off your team would be a huge loss, which is obviously why they went through the court case. So we don't know exactly what the NCAA even would want to do, right? They just said, here are some options of things that we believe we could do. I have no idea what the penalty would be, specifically what the financial penalty would be. Again, we're a long ways away from that. I think with this, it's more the idea that the NCAA is trying to use this as a mechanism to stop some of these things from happening. And regardless of how this specific lawsuit plays out, I think it's a signal that they're going to try this moving forward with a lot of these cases.
I know it's been a couple of weeks ago, or maybe not that long, but you wrote a story about the Tigers getting 2 players to the combine, both offensive linemen. Do you think either of them have a chance to make it?
You mean to the draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely in the mix. A lot of these things, it comes down to specific fit. It comes down to numbers. Obviously, Travis Burke, you would expect, will do pretty well in terms of the numbers. Listed at 6'9". As a right tackle, was a really good player for Memphis. Chris Adams, obviously, as well, as a starting left tackle for a couple seasons. I think both of those guys, Chris Adams has been someone who's kind of been at the forefront of at least the Memphis for the past, I would say, couple years. Guys that have been getting legitimate buzz, so I'm not surprised that he made it to the combine. I think with both those guys, you never really know. Last year we kind of went into the draft not knowing who was in the mix and how they were going to be in there. Obviously, Kobe Minor was the one who got drafted, and he wasn't even at the combine, so you never really know. But I think both those guys definitely have a shot, and it'll depend on how those things go at the combine.
I think Burke has the best chance. I thought he had the better year than Adams, even though he was preseason all-conference. But Burke broke his leg. That's what I wonder about. How quickly can you heal at 6'9" and all that weight? How quickly can you heal enough to perform at the combine? That's amazing in its own right.
Yeah, he said that he's good to go. So hopefully, obviously, he's able to. My understanding is he's going to be a full go, and so obviously that's what teams want to see, because if you're not, they have to kind of judge things based on, okay, well, what if he did this? Obviously, Pro Day will be after that, so he'll have another opportunity there to kind of show himself off and show that he's again at full health. But like you said, I think he's got a shot to be in the mix.
I'll tell you what, if I were a GM and I saw, oh, wait, this guy broke his leg in October and he's back 100%, I like that idea. You also covered the Grizzlies, and I was just talking with agent Andy Schiffman about this a little bit ago. With all the anti-tanking sentiment going on and fines by the NBA to teams that do that, we know Ja is going to get healthy. It's just an elbow contusion, right? What's going to happen when Ja is healthy? Will the Grizzlies be forced to play him? How will they work this? What will Zach Kleiman do with his star?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will they be forced to play him? Look, you can always find ways to not play players. The Utah Jazz are in town tonight, so maybe they can get some tips from them.
Yeah.
In terms of what
they
we've
got
seen.
fined, though.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the fine versus obviously we're seeing all this anti-tanking stuff about they're going to have these new rules or whatever ends up happening. But realistically, there's not that many games left in the season, and so if you want to say someone's already injured and they're not progressing the right way from their injury or whatever it is, there's ways to do it. I think it would be beneficial, though, for John Morant to play if he's healthy coming back this season, because obviously the Grizzlies are not going to be in the mix for the playoffs or anything. But if again, we talked about it before the trade deadline, right? You want to get this guy playing a couple games, whether it's just to show everyone that he's still playing at a high level, or just to get him ready for next season, right? You don't really have a lot to lose at this point in the season because of where you are in the standings. So if he's healthy, I would think they would want to at least see him play a couple games.
Yeah. You think Triple J will be at the game tonight? I know he's going to have surgery. Would he have it done here, or would he have it done at Utah? I mean, they're paying for it, right? So does he have to use Utah's doctors, or does he use the people that he's familiar and comfortable with?
I don't think so. I think I would guess that obviously when he's going to have, it would have been a bizarre kind of return game. This is obviously the first home game the Grizzlies have had since he was traded, so it's not like they've had any other games. I think, you'd hope when he gets his return game that they get his, tribute and he's able to play and everything. I think the game tonight is, you look at the Grizzlies injury report, you look at the Jazz injury report, this is going to be some names that you probably haven't heard in a long time who are going to be playing significant minutes tonight at FedEx Forum.
Yeah. I'm with you. Can't wait to see Meshack. That'll be big tonight. Jonah Dillon, as always, we appreciate you. We'll do this again next Friday. Have fun this weekend.
Yeah, you as well.
That is our guy, Jonah Dillon, on the Tigers and on the Grizzlies from the Commercial Appeal. Brought to you by Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders, third generation in the business now, William. And here's the thing that Ken Sr., Ken Jr., William all have in common. They understand the business. They serve people. They understand what it takes. You're talking 75 to 80 years worth of total knowledge. And they have this loyalty thing. The job is never done. That's what they'll tell you. If you've done either a house from scratch, and they're the best, go look at KenGarland.com and see all the beautiful palaces that he's built around. Or maybe you're doing a renovation with innovation. You don't want to leave your lot. You love your location, you love where you are, but you want modern amenities. They know how to do that too. Whether you do either of those disciplines with Ken Garland Custom Home Builders, they make sure even 6 months, a year after the job is done, that you're happy, that it's all working correctly. And if there's something that goes wrong, you call them. They are on the job immediately. That's the way they work. They're the best. That's very simple. Just, again, go to the website. You'll see what I'm talking about. You want experience. You want passion for what they do. You want loyalty. You just call Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. That does it for us for the week. We'll be back Monday. The Tigers will play UAB on Sunday. Maybe there will be a bounce back. We'll see. Johnny Radio, he's right around the corner. He's actually standing in the hallway, stomping at the bit. So don't go anywhere. Have a great weekend, everyone.